Well, we decided to fuck around and find out. 72-hour fast complete. Cakewalk, honestly, not very hard. You just don't think about it. But we'll add another thing to the top 1% that I've done in my life. So we're gonna do sauerkraut, bone broth, apple juice. This will be the first caloric intake I've had in 72 hours. So we'll do straight fermented sauerkraut juice because I'm a health and wellness influencer now. Hennigan's. Tastes like Hennigan's. Organic bone broth. And I actually might have killed this chicken last year. It's the only time in my life that I've enjoyed bone broth. It's real good. Next we have pure apple juice that's diluted 1/3 water, the rest fresh apple juice. This is maybe honestly the greatest apple juice I've ever had. So the reason for the fast was I had the affordability to do it in terms of I don't have to be at a job 9 to 5. I was recommended this from a friend who is a GI surgeon in Ontario. And I also looked into another gentleman in the States, Dr. Longo, who does a lot of research on this. And at first I thought it was a lot of like hippie hoopla stuff, but there is a lot of great benefits. I would check out their work. I'm not an expert on this stuff by any means, but I wanted to give it a go. A couple of things that I've noticed is the first 24 hours were more challenging, in that hunger definitely got pretty increased. However, I went to bed at 11, woke up at 4, and my sleep was the best it's been in maybe 10 years. I'm a terrible sleeper. I also had so much energy that I edited 2 podcasts and did a 2.5-hour training session that day. And my brain fog, especially coming out of the massive surgeries, and coming off a lot of medications that are psychoactive, they were prescribed, I have had a lot of brain fog. So I don't complain about it. I still podcast. I do my best work as I can. And yeah, I think that I had a lot of mental clarity. I think I also had a lot of transcendent thought processes in that I viewed certain challenges and obstacles in my life from a more positive perspective. I also had no bloating. I just had salt water. I did have nicotine, about 20 to 30 milligrams a day. I had 1 ginger turmeric tea, and that was it. But my main precipice of all of this is that, like anything in life, if you're not focused on something, it's really hard to have feelings towards it, right? So going through this whole process, yes, I have a laundry list of ultra marathons and hundreds and thousands and all this push-ups. So I just use that mentality that I developed over 13 years towards a challenge like this. And so instead of thinking about how hungry I was or ruminating about food, I decided to just operate normally. Wake up, take the dog for a short walk, edit, podcast, meetings, get my rehab training work in, and move on. And when you disassociate yourself from those like ruminating thought patterns, again, you just don't feel it because it's not something that you're consciously evaluating. So I genuinely didn't find this that hard. Now, of course, with my background in ultra endurance, that certainly plays a factor. If I didn't have that, I can imagine this would be very, very challenging, but I think it's a worthwhile experience. And if you're religious, there's a lot of reasons behind fasting to get closer to God as well, but I'm not going to get into all that in this episode or video. So I think there's definitely a lot of advantages to, just giving it a go. Like, why not? Like, we only live once. Like, why not try something? And to be honest with you, to be in the top 1% of something, it's a really low bar and a really low hanging fruit. Getting in the top 1% in fitness took me 13 years. This took me 72 hours. So coming out of it, I was recommended to do it very slowly. So bone broth, diluted juice, some fermented products. I choose sauerkraut. I love it. I can eat a whole jar in one sitting because you don't really want to go from fasting, not eating anything for 3 hours, your GI tract getting that rest, and then eating a bunch of fiber, being retarded and binge eating on like cake or candy. So it'll be every hour I'll drink 2 cups of bone broth, 2 cups of apple juice, and a little bit of sauerkraut juice for the first 4 hours. Then I'll have some banana, some white rice, and then tomorrow will be very similar, except I'll probably have 4 or 5 meals spaced out. And I'll eat all of those same things, but at one time. And then by the 4th day, I'll start reintroducing regular foods like chicken, more rice, maybe some easy pastas with butter, coffee, something very simple that isn't going to have a lot of fiber. I also plan on doing a 12-12 ratio for fasting. So if I get up at 8, I'm not going to eat after 8 p.m. to see how that goes for a while. So we'll see the long-term benefits. I have no idea, but really you don't see the benefits until 4 to 5 days after, if you do the proper integration after you're done the fast. Again, if you do a fast and then you just start eating a bunch of processed foods and a lot of calories, a lot of fiber, you're basically just wasting your time. But look into Dr. Longo's work because he explains that. So we'll see what happens, because after my surgery, I've definitely gotten sick a lot more than usual because of immune system suppression, not being able to move as much, less sunlight, my body's spending a lot of time and energy healing my legs. So we'll see how this works. And if anyone wants to give it a try, you can message me, but I would definitely recommend looking up those resources because I think there's a lot of value in this, and I think it was a great experience. So sometimes, as my shirt says, you got to fuck around and find out. I think a lot of times in our world now, especially with technology, we overanalyze everything when in reality, like all the people I've had on my podcast that are world-class athletes, doctors, scientists, they oddly don't do that. They've built world-class resumes and careers and wealth and income because they just go. They take an action. They just post a clip. They just start the business. I'm not saying there isn't any thought process behind it, but the thought process to action ratio is very small thought, very high action. And then when you see a lot of people in this world that don't do anything or achieve anything meaningful in their lives, they have a lot of great thoughts and they're too afraid and soft to just pull the trigger because you're going to die. No one cares. The echo chamber on your social media is an echo chamber. No one knows who you are outside of a small niche subset of people. So there's very to little risk and only potential upsides. Whether that's social media, whether that's running, just put some fucking shoes on and go run every day. Like you don't need a zone. You don't need a heart rate monitor. You just run. And then if you think about it, there are so many people in this world that are really, really good at running that just started when they were kids and they got outside the door and they just ran. The $300 pair of Nike shoes are not needed. Get a $100 pair of running shoes, just go fucking run. And that's why I ran a marathon without training in 4 hours and 8 minutes, because I didn't know any times. I had no self-awareness of what's good or bad. I just was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to dominate. And I did for my first marathon. So I would just dive in. The perfect theorist will never beat the ultimate practitioner. So I would strongly advise to become an ultimate practitioner. Thank you for your attention to this matter.